The best things in life are free.
If I had $1 million, I wanna be a billionaire.
If I was a rich girl, and I am a material girl, all the women independent. She was all for money.
Putting on the Ritz. Taking care of business. Life in the fast lane. Money grabber. If you got the money, honey, go on, take the money and run. Get your money for nothing. She give me money.
The more money we come, the more problems we see.
Welcome to week 2 of a series we've been in called Money Probz. I want to say hello to those of you joining us via video, TV, church online, one of our West Texas campuses. We're glad that you're joining us today as well. If you missed last weekend, you can always catch it online on our website. Otherwise, once you know you're kind of coming in the middle of a movie, okay? So you can be like, what's he mean by that? What's he saying? You have to go back after this one, watch last week, and help you catch up. But I'll try to give you a brief review. Here's what we said last weekend if you were here. We said that 76% of Americans report that they're living paycheck to paycheck. 76% of Americans saying, if I didn't get my next paycheck, it would not be okay. I would throw a fit, okay? This would be bad. So here's what we know. 76% of Americans say this. We just assumed 76% of you, paycheck to paycheck. 76% of those of you watching via video, you live in paycheck to paycheck. And we said last weekend, that's a scary way to live. You know why? Because you don't know that you're going to get your next paycheck. You don't control that. I don't know that I'm going to get my next paycheck. It's kind of a scary way to live. It can be a stressful way to live, an anxious way to live. We said last weekend, Solomon, we introduced you a guy named Solomon. We said he said you don't have to live that way if you don't want to. This is what he said. Remember from last weekend? Solomon, King Solomon, can't go into his whole story, but basically, wisest man to ever live. God said God gave him this wisdom. Everybody knew it. People traveled to hear him talk. So smart. He said this, Proverbs 21:20, the wise people have wealth and luxury. Remember that? But that didn't mean like mansions, right? That meant they save some. They have some left over. Wise have wealth and luxury. But what? Fools, what do? They spend whatever they get. And then we gave you some synonyms for fool. What was your favorite one? Dipstick. That's mine too. That's one of my favorite words. Dipstick, okay? But dipsticks, we said you can translate that way, spend whatever they get. So the wise save some, but dipsticks, fools, this is me. This is talking about me. Fools, at one point in time in my life, fools, they just spend all that they make. Solomon's saying, you don't have to live like a fool. Even if you've been living paycheck to paycheck, spending everything you make, you don't have to live that way. You can live like a wise person if you'd like to. Have wealth and luxury, meaning some left over if you want to. And I said last weekend, I guarantee you, everybody 76% living paycheck to paycheck. They don't want to live that way. You know, like, hey, if I could choose, I'd choose paycheck to paycheck because it just makes me so happy. It's just wonderful to be stressed out all the time. No, you wouldn't choose that. You'd choose to break free. I said you come back this weekend. I'll tell you something else Solomon said that'll help you break free. So I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. Let's get right to it. If you've got a pen, we got one in your chair. I grab it. Turn your program over. You can take some notes. This is good stuff. This is how you break free. This is what helped me and my wife break free. You got to understand this. Same chapter. Proverbs 21, verse 5. He said this. Watch this. Don't miss it. Good planning, hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Got that? It's a formula. You see the formula? Good planning plus hard work equals what? Prosperity. Now, lest you think, oh, he's saying you can get rich. We're talking about getting rich. That's not what we're talking about. The Hebrew word translated prosperity, if you look it up in a Hebrew lexicon, you know what the first word that comes up in English to describe this Hebrew word is? It's the word profit. We're not talking about getting rich. You know what we're talking about? We're talking about take what you earn, subtract what you spend, you get a profit if it's a positive number, okay? If it's a negative number, that's called a loss. You don't want that, okay? He's saying good planning, hard work lead to, you got some left over. That's what he's saying. You got a profit. It's positive, that number, okay? You haven't spent everything you made. He said, these two things, add them together. It's a formula. You can write this down. It's a formula. Good planning plus hard work equals this. But. Hasty shortcuts. I'm not going to plan. Hasty shortcuts. I'm not going to work hard. Lead to what? Living paycheck to paycheck. Poverty. Having no profit. Having nothing left over at the end of the month. We're not talking about getting filthy rich. We're just talking about not spending everything you make. That's what this means. Formula. Now, looking at this, I think a lot of you guys would say, I'm working as hard as I can. I'm paycheck to paycheck, but I'm doing everything I can. What am I supposed to do? I'm working as hard as I can. I think most of you probably working hard and you're still part of the 76% living paycheck to paycheck. What am I missing? The wisest man to ever live, he told you. Hard work plus good planning. My guess is you don't have a good plan. That's my guess. Because I didn't have a good plan. I'm thinking the 76%, they probably don't have a good plan. You say, what in the world do you mean by a plan? Here's what I mean. A plan with your money is called a what? A budget. You're like, oh, see, I didn't think it's going to be this easy. This is so easy. If it was easy, then why were 76% of you living paycheck to paycheck? It's easy to understand, easy to get in your mind, can be hard to live out. A plan, good planning, Solomon said, you need a plan if you want a profit. It's called a budget. Now, a lot of us think, oh, I got one of those. I got one in my closet. I got one. Let me tell you how you know if you have a budget. Let me tell you right here. Well, first, I got a quote. I think I got a quote. I skipped one. Yeah, John Maxwell quote. This is what a budget is. Let me go here first. Budget is this. A budget, I love this, and this is a leadership expert. He's written lots of books, but this is what he said. A budget is people telling their money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's me. That's a 76%. Where did that money go? I had it the other day, and now it's gone. Okay, that's what they're doing. He says a budget's people telling their money where to go. Now, next slide. Here's how you know if you have a budget, because a lot of us claim to have one. Here's how you know. Number one, you can show it to us. Like you got it right here. It's on your phone. Here it is. Or it's on a sheet of paper at home. It's not like, yeah, I got it. No. No, you can show it to us. And two. This is where most people miss it. You followed it last month. Like, say, I got a budget, but I followed it last year. Okay, no, it's not a budget, okay? By definition, you've got a budget if you're following it, if you're sticking to it. I guarantee you, most of the 76%, most of you do not have a budget by this definition. And Solomon's saying you need to plan, you need to have a budget if you don't want to be a dipstick and live paycheck to paycheck. You gotta have a good plan, and we didn't have a good plan. So here's our story. Told you some of it last weekend. We don't have a plan. We're not living on a budget. Here's what would happen. We'd get paid, okay? And then by the middle of the month, the money would magically disappear. You ever seen it? It's definitely magic. Like you go to the mall. You're not even planning to spend any money. And you leave. You go home. You look at your bank online or your bank statement. And some of those stores in that mall stole your money. Have you ever seen that before? They're on your bank. It's magic. They took it. You don't even remember buying anything. They just took it. You were in that restaurant, remember? In a restaurant, Outback. Just looking at the menu, $12, $15. I'm not eating here. And then they charge your card. Can you believe that? You just leave. You thought, I don't think I ate. I don't even remember that steak. And then you leave, and then you go bank online, and it's right there. And I'm serious. You know this. It's magic, right? The money just disappears. And like the Maxwell quote, you don't even know where it went. It just magically disappears. That's how we were living. And so then we would overdraw, freak out, and repeat the cycle the next month. Why? We didn't have a plan. Maybe we thought we did. Oh, I got something over here. We didn't have a plan. I was trying to work hard. I was just in seminary at the time. I couldn't work full time, but I was trying to work hard. I just didn't have a plan. And so because I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a profit. I didn't have any left over. So my wife and I got sick and tired of it, and we decided we're going to listen to the wisest man to ever live. We're going to get on a plan and called a budget. And so we put one together. 4 steps. If you're taking notes, you got to get these down. This is huge. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't want to miss this. 4 steps that helped us get from a place of living paycheck to paycheck, not even anywhere close to living to paycheck to paycheck. Step one. We got out a blank sheet of paper and we wrote what I made each month on the top. It was really that easy. Hey, babe, can I have a sheet of paper? Yeah, sure, sweetie. Okay, here you go. Okay, right here. Okay, babe, let's sit down. I remember the table we were sitting at when we were so fed up with the way we were spending our money. Set the piece of paper down. At the top, I just wrote my income for the month. Now, again, I told you I was a youth worship leader, okay? I'm going to round to the nearest 1,000 for the sake of the math here in a second and say I made about $2,000 a month. It wasn't that much, but I want to prove you can make very little and still work this process, okay? So we wrote at the top, step two. That was easy. Step two, we wrote down all our essential expenses and a dollar amount next to each that we didn't want to go over. Does that make sense? We just listed out, so here's my income at the top. We've got $2,000, rounding up. All these essential expenses down the paper. Like expenses we had to have to survive, okay? We wanted to get on a survival budget. Can I show you our survival budget? I actually gave you a copy of it in your chair. Would you pull it out? Check this out. All of our campuses, this little sheet of paper. You see it? Essentials budget, okay? I'm just showing you what we did. I'm not saying this is the only way to get to a point where you're not paycheck to paycheck. I'm just telling you our story. This is what we did. Sat down with a sheet of paper, put our income at the top, started listing off these essential expenses. Now look at this sheet of paper here. Call it the essentials budget, survival budget. Here's what it means. Stuff you need to survive, to work, and to pay back the people that you owe, otherwise known as a survival budget, okay? Because we're thinking, if we want to get ahead, we're going to have to cut back, okay? So let's think to ourselves, me and my wife, babe, let's think to ourselves of what we have to survive, because we got to end up with some extra money at the end of the month. So we said practical, right? We do practical here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to walk you down this list of our essential categories. Here's what we did. So at the top, how much I make. So like I told you, for the sake of easy math, put 2,000 there. Here are the essential expenses. Number one, this is what we wrote down. Giving. And then we took 10% of the gross amount that we made, and we put that amount there. Now, this is not a giving talk. This is not a giving series, but I just want to stop here for a second. To us, this is a survival thing. This is an essential thing. I've told you before, we've been tithers. That just means we give 10%. Back to our local church, since we got married, for sure. And since then, we've been increasing by at least 1% or more each year, so we're way past this now. But we just couldn't find an example in the Bible where God instructed anybody to give less than that. So we thought, that's probably a good place to start. Probably don't want to go less than that. We're going to go 10%. And here's one thing I heard. I forgot who said it years ago. He said, it'd be better to live on 90% of your income with the blessing of God, like you give away 10%. 90% with the blessing of God, than 100% without his blessing. It'd be better, it'd go further, living on 90% of your income with the blessing of God than 100% without his blessing. So this is not even, we don't even think about this. I mean, we wrote it at the top. It was number one, 10%, boom, and we wrote it down and we moved on. So that's that for now. That's where we landed. We've talked about this before. I think it is an essential expense for you too. It's not really an expense, it's an investment. Helping the poor and getting the gospel out all across the world. Not many things better you can do with your money. Okay, keep going. Housing. Rent, mortgage, insurance, and then we wrote down the amount we were paying right there. Now, and we asked ourselves the question, could we live somewhere cheaper? Is this like a survival apartment? And here's the thing. We did live in something cheaper than the one we were in. The one we were in was about $400 to $500 a month, which was pretty cheap for like a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. Before that, when I first got to seminary, we moved in this cheap old apartment, okay? It was second floor. I remember the day we moved all our stuff up to the second floor apartment. And we moved in, get all our stuff in there. And me and my wife were kind of going, and we smelled something in the apartment. And it was smoke, okay? But not like someone's on fire, like smoke coming from somewhere like out, it was like secondhand smoke, like somebody smoking a cigarette. Come to find out, they look at the apartment. The people below us, they were allowed to smoke in their apartment. So they were smoking, and this apartment complex was so old, and the ventilation system was so bad that the smoke would come up through the ventilation system, and it was pouring out into our apartment, and they said there really wasn't much they could do about it. And I was thinking to myself, hey, it's just a sacrifice. Hey, babe, we're saving money. It's just a sacrifice you got to make to get ahead. You know what my wife's doing over in the corner? So you know what we did? We moved out that day. Okay, we moved straight out. I went straight to the office. I said, hey, we cannot take this. I signed a contract. Give me that back. Okay, we're moving out. And so we moved into a $400 to $500 one. So it was pretty cheap. Okay, we did housing. Utilities, electricity, gas, water, you write it down. But here's what you got to know. This is not a utility. Neither is this package, okay? Now, I know some of the guys are like, here's the thing, though. HD is a utility for my eyes so I can see the football game better, okay? Come on. No, it's not utility. Okay, so put the essentials down. Next, transportation, car payment. Praise God, we didn't have one of those. Insurance, gas, we wrote it down. And one thing we tried to do here, a way we recognized we could save some money in survival mode, is use one car. For most people, 2 cars is not an essential. We use one car, and we take each other places, and it's one, tank of gas in one car, not 2 cars. You can save some money. People all around the world go by foot or public transportation. You'll be fine. Okay, so we were using one car for a time. All right, wrote the money down there for gas. Groceries is next. You write that out there. Now, this is not a grocery, okay? This little thing here is not a grocery. I tried to convince my wife it was. I'm like, babe, here's the thing. I know Chick-fil-A waffle fries are not a grocery, but I cannot survive without those, okay? She's like, you will do just fine, babe. You will do just fine, and you'll survive, and you'll lose weight too, okay? You'll be just fine. But here's what was great for me, okay? It's like, man, gosh. The seminary I went to, they had, I guess, a connection at the Chick-fil-A at the Hewlin Mall down the street in Fort Worth. And that Chick-fil-A owner felt so bad for seminary students that on Tuesday nights you could go to Chick-fil-A and eat for free. Okay, so I got my waffle fries in once a week, all right? I'm like, that is a part of essentials. If it's free, if you can eat at a restaurant for free, you put it down right there on essentials, okay? That probably means you're the son of the restaurant owner or the restaurant owner. If you're the restaurant owner, you may not be paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so eating out. Not a grocery. Okay, you put that down. And sometimes this number is hard to find because you could probably do less than you're doing now. Got to go back, look at the previous month, see if you can bring it down, no name brands, that kind of thing. Survival. You're thinking survival. I'm already having trouble surviving just because I'm paycheck to paycheck. Surely I can put this thing together, whether I follow it or not. All right. Non-food personal items. Hygiene, personal hygiene, toilet paper. That's what goes here. You got to understand this, though. Y'all know this brand? Let's just talk about this for a second, okay? This is kind of awkward to talk about in church, but let's just talk about Charmin toilet paper, okay? Charmin toilet paper is not essential, okay? You don't need it to survive. People have used leaves before, okay? So you will be, the generic brand gets it all out to, so you're gonna be good, okay? It's just a scratchier experience. But you're gonna be great, okay, on non-name brands. So you gotta put that down there and welcome to Experience Life. Okay, so next on here. Your friends told you about this, didn't they? Yeah, now you're shocked. Okay, next, clothing. And for us, we had closets full of clothes. And so we were able to do very little here for a time. In our baby, we just had McKinley. We'd been given a bunch of clothes. So for most people, that's an essential. For us, it wasn't, at least at that time. And for sure, you got a kid that's growing up, okay? If you take your 3-year-old around in a onesie, somebody's gonna call the police, okay? You got to buy them some clothes. So I'm just saying, for us, we could make without it on survival mode, okay? Next, phone, internet, put that down, but we got rid of the unlimited texting and the photo sharing and all that. You remember flip phones? That's what we had. Doesn't that feel like back in the day? That was 3 years ago. Okay, so, but that feels like back in the day. We had a flip phone right there. So we put that down. Medical, that's pharmacy, doctor's visits, health insurance. You put that down. That's important, obviously. And then this last one, unless you come up with another essential, other debt payments. You write it down here. And we had some student loans, mainly. Now, here's what you got to know about this category. Debt is not your friend, okay? Debt will try to drown you. Friends don't try to drown friends, okay? You don't want to be friends with this guy. He doesn't like you. He will own you, okay? You do not want to have anything to do with him. And let me show you this. You know what Solomon says you and I are when we are in debt? You know what he calls us? You know what he says we are? he says you're a slave. He says I'm a slave. He says the borrower is a slave to the lender. I don't know about you. That doesn't sound like a great life to me. I'll be a slave to him. Oh, that's good. That's exciting. No, he's saying that's something you should run from. Who wants to be a slave to somebody else or some institution? Okay? This is what Dave Ramsey says. This is the financial guru I told you about that teaches a lot of these principles. I love this. He said, debt is not a tool. It is a method to make banks wealthy, not you. I mean, compare their house to yours. Think about it. Bank's house, your house, okay? Think about who's rich. Okay, debt is not a tool. It's what we think a lot of times. Oh, debt's a tool. That's going to get me ahead. No, it will drown you. Remember, it's not your friend. It is a method to make banks wealthy, not you. Look at this next thing. This is a study from Ramsey's book. I loved this. Look at this. Forbes 400. It's a list of the richest 400 people in America as rated by Forbes magazine. When surveyed, 75% of them, the richest people, the Forbes 400, these are rich people, not your broke brother-in-law with an opinion, said the best way to build wealth is to become and stay what? Debt-free. I'm not sharing this with you because we all should aspire to be on the Forbes 400. Some of y'all are like, that's what I want. Okay, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we got to listen to some people that have gotten ahead. We got to listen to some people that aren't paycheck to paycheck if we want to not be paycheck to paycheck. You know what they're saying? We had to become and stay debt-free. Too often people say, oh, it's a tool. Oh, it's fine. Everybody's in debt. No, well, these guys are saying that's not how you get ahead. That's not how you break free from living paycheck to paycheck. You got to become and stay debt-free. Now, I know this is overwhelming to you, and it was to me, because you probably have a mountain of debt. I had quite a bit of debt too. There's a way you can get out. There's a plan. There's people that can help. Take a look at this. You've got to get involved in this. Financial Peace University. It's a class we're offering this fall. You can sign up in your campus lobby. There's a plan. My wife and I executed the plan, and we were able to get out of all debt except for our home. We're almost out of that. So you got to get involved in this. There's a cost to the class. It's worth the cost. You'll make it back. But in case you're overwhelmed and like, I don't know what to do, I don't get all this, you got to sign up for this right after the service today. Go sign up for this class. Okay, let's keep going. Got to move. So back to this sheet. So here's what you do. You add up this column. Here, your essential expenses. Add this up, and you put the number here. So let's say for us it was approximately $1,800. Then you subtract this number from the top. What I said I was making is $2,000, and you get this net monthly cash flow. This is what you need to get to in the black. This can't be negative. This can't be zero. It's got to be hundreds of dollars. Hopefully it's a lot more than this. I did this on a very small amount of income. Hopefully it's much more, but you want this to be as high as possible. If you want to get ahead, that's got to be high. Now, in case you're at zero or negative after doing this, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go back up here, and you're going to have to go, hey, house, I'm going to have to move. It's too expensive. Utilities, I can't run the AC all day. It's too expensive. Transportation, I'm going to have to sell my car. Groceries, I got to quit doing name brands, and so on. You're going to have to make a sacrifice, because when you get down here, you will not get ahead. You will not be able to break free from this if this net monthly cash flow is zero or in the negatives. You got to get it positive and as high as you can. That's the key. That's key in step 2. That's about $200. What my wife and I were at, we wish we could have done a lot more. It's $2,000 a month, okay? So $200. Now, that's step 1 and 2. Steps 3 and 4 are even more important. Steps 3 and 4 are huge. You got to get these down. You will miss out unless you get these. You will not make it in out of the whole paycheck to paycheck thing unless you get these. And so steps 3 and 4 are so awesome and so huge. We're going to talk about those next weekend. And so you're going to want to be back for that. But until then, here's the challenge for you. You've got this sheet of paper. Execute steps 1 and 2. Write down the income at the top, work with your spouse, come up with a survival budget. I'm not saying you have to do it. Just at least sit down, though, and come up with it. I'm not saying you have to start living on it. I'm not saying that. I haven't got step 3 and 4. You don't even know what I want you to do with the net monthly cash flow yet. You got to get there first. That's the assignment this week. This is practical, hopefully helpful. You're going to come back next week. We're going to give you steps 3 and 4. And I'm thinking by the end of next week, there's going to be many people on the path to not living any longer paycheck to paycheck. But you're going to have to come back to hear the rest. Let me pray for you as we go. God, thank you so much for my friends here today. And God, I've lived paycheck to paycheck, and it's a scary way to live. It's a stressful way to live, and I wanted a way out. I learned some of these things, and it really helped my wife and I. I remember sitting down and doing this budgeting thing. We had no idea what it was, but we tried it, and you helped us, God, as we did. You honored us trying. And so, God, I just pray at Experience Life over the next couple of weeks that we be good planners. Good planning plus hard work equals a profit. God, we need to be good planners. Help me, help our church, everybody listening right now, to be a good planner, to have a budget, to have it written down on paper. Every dollar has a name, and to live on it so they can get ahead. They can break free from the cycle that's stressing them out. And God, we recognize we can't do it on our own. We need your help. We love that you like to help us. We love that you want to help us. I pray that you would. I pray that many people, as a result of this series, would break free. God, let us break free as we listen to what the scriptures say, the wisest man to ever live, and as we live it out. We got to do it, God. We got to do it. We're looking forward to seeing how you work in our lives as we try. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for checking out one of our messages today. For more information about our church or to watch other messages, you can go to our website at experiencelifenow.com. Let us know if we can serve you in any way, and we hope to see you real soon.